The first time I saw William was in a coffee shop on the street corner. He ordered a cup of black coffee and naturally sat in front of the coffee table. His long and beautiful fingers rested on the laptop on his lap as he was working on a paper for a core journal. William, the youngest medical professor at S University. He is elegant and gentle, and he is my blind date partner. As soon as I sat across from him, he called the waiter over. "One more iced Americano, 3/10 sweet." I was a bit surprised. "You know my taste?" William closed the laptop in front of him. "Isn't Matthew's taste always well known? 3/10 sweet Americano, hot in winter and iced in summer, never changing." William raised his clear eyes. For a moment, there was a gentle look in his black pupils, like a whirlpool that made people involuntarily get trapped. I took a sip of the coffee the waiter brought. There was a bit too much sugar in it. It was sweet but not cloying. I suddenly let out a soft laugh. Why would a person like Professor He think of going on a blind date? William's answer was still impeccable. "I'm at the right age and my family is urging me. Besides, isn't someone as excellent as Matthew still unmarried?" William is not quite the same as I imagined. In the information given to me in advance, he had called off countless blind dates. Everyone who went on a blind date with him described him as stand-offish, cold-hearted, sarcastic, and hard to get along with. But the William in front of me is introverted and gentle, almost meeting all the fantasies of a normal alpha about an omega. My fingertips rested against the coffee cup as I spared no praise. "You're much prettier than I imagined." William meekly lowered his eyes. "So, Matthew, do I meet your standards?" I didn't say a word and called the waiter to settle the bill. Daniel was waiting for me at the entrance of the coffee shop. Seeing me come out, he immediately opened the car door and said, "Matthew." I got in the car and tugged at my tie, alleviating the heat between my eyebrows. Since childhood, there has never been a shortage of excellent omegas around me. Although William isn't the most beautiful among them, he's definitely good, looking like the slightly sweet and bitter coffee in memories. Thought-provoking and sweet without being cloying. I gave instructions to Daniel. Send a marriage agreement to Professor He's email. The email was sent successfully and there was a ding sound from the computer. At the same time, through the car window, I met William's eyes as he looked up from his laptop after reading the message. I had a half smile while his features remained calm, with a faint smile at the corner of his lips. William moved his lips and I read what he said. "See you again." Because it was a marriage alliance between families of equal status. The subsequent meeting between the parents of both sides was simply a formality. The lifelong marking that should have taken place on the wedding night. As a result, that night, in the first half of the night, I was busy with an extremely important teleconference. In the second half of the night, William was called to the medical laboratory by a phone call and didn't come back all night. This matter was thus delayed. He didn't say anything, and neither did I bring it up actively. William got up early and I came back late. In the eyes of outsiders, he was cold and abstinent. In front of me, he was taciturn. Even when he spoke, he was reasonable. It wasn't until I saw a row of empty omega inhibitors in the cabinet that I realized that he also had needs. Even Daniel couldn't stand it anymore. "Matthew, don't you like Professor He? They all say that Professor He has been living like a widow since being with you. How could I not like him? William is my omega whom I married through proper channels. These days, I haven't failed to mention the matter of marking implicitly, but William has evaded it. In the evening, I came home early for a rare time. I had dinner with William. He had a light taste and there were not many dishes on the table. The doorbell rang and I got up to open the door. The little omega standing outside the door tiptoed and bumped into my arms with a big bunch of flowers in his hands. "Oh, sorry. Are you Matthew? These are the flowers you ordered. I didn't mean to bump into you. These are all freshly imported flowers this morning. You can see they still have dew on them. Your omega will definitely like them. Please, don't give a bad review." The little omega clasped their hands together and babbled a whole string of words. Although a part of my European hand-tailored shirt got wet, I just couldn't get angry. I only told him to be more careful next time. After closing the door, I returned to the dining table. William had finished his meal and quietly went into the room, leaving only the omega pheromones lingering in the air. He never liked to be disturbed when doing his research. I dealt with some matters outside. It wasn't until midnight that I noticed something was wrong, as there was still no movement from William. I pushed open the ajar door and saw William sitting upright in the bathtub with an abnormally flushed face. I felt a slight panic in my heart and quickly walked over. I called his name, "William." There was no response. The water in the bathtub was still warm. His 2 legs submerged in the water were fair, slender, and very beautiful. I felt his forehead again. It wasn't hot. Fortunately, he was just in heat. I picked him up from the bathtub. He rubbed against my pectoral muscles uncomfortably and then raised his head to ask for a kiss. I lowered my head and kissed his lips. His lips were extremely soft, with a faint fragrance of lemon orange. He was kissed awake, but his mind was still not very clear. Didn't you go with that little Omega? Why did you come back? I pressed him against the sink and made him look at his own lust-filled appearance in the mirror with a blushing face. Then my lips started to nip at his soft shoulders restlessly. What little Omega? Don't I only have you? William's instinctive reaction still remained. I saw it all. He gave you a bunch of flowers. He slapped my hand away. Don't touch me. I find you dirty. I lowered my eyes gloomily and bit the little red spot on his chest. That was a flower shop errand boy. I ordered the flowers for you. If you don't like them, I won't order them again next time. William's eyes looked a bit vacant. He wanted to refute me but couldn't find any basis. He could only let me have my way. I injected my alpha pheromone into his gland, which was almost brutally bitten. Alphas have better physical strength and wake up earlier. I heard William's phone ringing. I poked his waist. William. Your phone. The person in the bed still slept without any reaction. Afraid it might be something important, I casually answered the phone. Hello, I'm Matthew. William is sleeping now. If you have anything to say, you can tell me first and I'll convey it to him. There was an exclamation on the other end of the phone. I frowned slightly and realized there was more than one person on the other side. Soon the person on the other end laughed it off. It's nothing. It's just that it's the first time for Professor He to oversleep. We're calling to remind him. This is a good thing. Matthew, you should also pay attention to moderation. We'll hang up first. The phone was hung up quickly. I turned around. Only then did I see that William had woken up. He was sitting on the bed and the lust in his eyes gradually faded. He seemed to have returned to being that aloof medical professor. I threw the phone into his arms. You woke up just in time. William's reaction was calm. Matthew is no less impressive. He was quite ruthless. I picked up his torn shirt and threw it into the bathtub. My hoarse voice sounded a bit lazy. Do you want me to help you take a bath? Last night, you kept asking me, but I couldn't help you clean up. It's not good to leave that stuff there for too long. If it's inconvenient for you. William's face flushed instantly. I'll do it myself. Before going out, I greeted the aunt. There's no omega inhibitor at home. Buy some and stock up later. The aunt was a bit flustered all of a sudden. Matthew, is William in heat? It's all my fault for being so forgetful. I noticed there was none left before getting off work yesterday and was going to buy some, but then I was in a hurry to pick up the kids. William said it didn't matter when he found out because his heat is always irregular. Who would have known? I could probably guess what William was thinking. I said it doesn't matter. If he doesn't want it, don't stock it up in the future. Although there is a marking relationship, my relationship with William only exists in bed and daily life. I rarely ask about his experiments, nor do I deliberately learn about his research direction, and he rarely mentions it to me either. Until one day, my dad called me over. How's your relationship with William recently? I replied, it's quite good. I like him a lot. My dad's face didn't show the expected happiness. Do you know that his current research on omega inhibitors is to reduce the damage of omega inhibitors on the reproductive cavity function of omegas in the market? I've never been very clear about the stakes involved and didn't think there were many problems. My dad explained to me, once this kind of inhibitor is promoted, it will allow omegas to be largely free from the influence of pheromones and reduce the fertility rate of the whole society. How many people's interests will this touch? Anyway, you must divorce William. Divorce? This is the ultimatum my dad gave me. Back at the company, I finally rummaged through William's research materials. William is a genius professor at University S. At a young age, he led a team to work on an optimization plan for omega inhibitors. At first, the upper-class society regarded this experiment as a joke. After all, there is no type of inhibitor on the market that does not affect the reproductive function of omegas, which is also the reason why most alphas act recklessly towards their omegas. However, the successive breakthroughs finally made the upper-class society feel panicked. And Xingming III, as a member of the alpha class in the upper class, is also inevitably bound to the interests of the upper class. William and I are destined to be on opposite sides. He knew all these, but he never mentioned them to me. I composed a message for William. Do you have time to meet? I looked at William's back on the phone lock screen. This was a photo I casually took at an academic exchange meeting a year ago and set as my phone screensaver. I turned off the phone and placed it on the table. Let my Omega do whatever he wants. I don't want to be his stumbling block, let alone his weakness. All I can do is be the hand that supports him in the dark. The corner cafe is where our story began. I pushed the divorce agreement in front of him. William calmly took it and flipped through it. With his sharp eyes, it's not difficult for him to see how many clauses in it are purely beneficial to him. It's more like a one-sided property transfer agreement under the guise of a divorce agreement. William's expression remained unchanged from beginning to end. Can you give me some time? I want to think about it. I took a sip of iced Americano and said, feel free. With just a simple feel free when I opened my eyes again. My legs were already in shackles and half of my body was hanging on the chair. There was a bruise on my neck. I lowered my eyes and saw that so-called ice-cold William biting my neck, gasping continuously and licking the blood he bit out sickly and lovingly. I lost my voice and tried to make him sober up. William. Don't be stupid. Forced detention is illegal. Matthew. William called me like this, which made my heart skip a beat. I'm not even afraid of death. Why would I be afraid of breaking the law? William's drooping eyelashes were very close to my eyelids. I could see his smooth jawline, and the pheromones in the air were ambiguously blending together. Damn it, I'm having a physical reaction. William's fingers pressed against my chin and lifted it. As long as Matthew behaves well, I won't hurt you. William's voice became lower and lower. The kiss became more intense and deep with our lips and tongues intertwined. Matthew, I won't hurt you. My lips were chafed and inflamed. You can see but can't have. William, you're really something. I watched William's back disappear at the end of the basement. I struggled to sit up and a large part of the front of my clothes was wet. The ropes on my wrists were very tight, leaving deep red marks. William had done things very meticulously. He didn't leave me any means of communication, nor did he give me a chance to contact anyone. However, he forgot that this was my home. I calmly found a sharp place, cut the ropes, dug out the wood, ash, and took out the phone inside. Although the model was a bit old, it still worked. I raised my hand and dialed a number. Hello, is that Daniel? It's me. I'm in the basement. Please bring the office documents on my desk here. By the way, don't let the madam see it. Daniel was efficient. He soon brought the office documents to the basement. I looked at the small toy that Daniel had brought along, thinking he was being smart. My eyebrows twitched. You've lost your bonus this month. There was no table in the basement. I simply crossed my long legs. Calmly, I dealt with the computer files placed on my legs. When William appeared again, he brought me a meal. It was the eel rice he made himself, and it was still warm. He first glanced at me, then fell silent for a moment. Before I left, your shirt shouldn't have been that loose, right? I lowered my head and saw the ambiguous hickey on it. Extremely calmly, I said, maybe. In this matter, there's actually nothing to argue about. William pushed the unagi rice in front of me, untied the string, and let me eat by myself. William's cooking are excellent. The eel rice looks, smells, and tastes great. Who cares about being imprisoned or not? It's time to eat now. Seeing me gobbling up the food, William suddenly asked me, don't you have anything you want to ask me? I swallowed a mouthful of rice and said, what should I ask? William was silent for a moment and said, forget it. Just eat. William's cooking really suits my taste. After swallowing the last grain of rice, William put away the lunchbox and made a bed beside me. I couldn't help but hoarsely remind him, the basement is very damp. It's not suitable for you omegas to live in. William didn't take it seriously. If I don't watch over Matthew here with Matthew's intelligence, he'll escape soon. That's not worth it. At this time, William smelled a bit of pheromone in the air and subconsciously frowned. What is this smell? I knew I couldn't hide it from him, so I told the truth. I'm in my susceptible period. It's the first day, and I'm in a lot of pain. If you're in pain, just hit something with a slipper. The words blurted out by William were like poisoned arrows. But perhaps feeling that it wasn't very humane to leave an alpha in their susceptible period alone, William frowned slightly. Don't you have any alpha inhibitors prepared? I tried hard to suppress the instinctive gasps. I originally planned to prepare them, but before I had the chance to tell Daniel, You abducted me here with a single blow. William looked at that part of me and then quickly averted his gaze. Can't you take care of it yourself? I calmly threw the question back at him. If I take care of it myself, I might easily become impotent and may also suffer from premature ejaculation. William himself is a medical professor. Of course he knew that what I said was not groundless. He finally said, "Close your eyes." I obediently closed my eyes as he said. After a moment, a warm sensation enveloped me in the darkness. I opened my eyes, and the scene before me almost made me lose control. William, with a flushed face, was sitting on my lap, slowly searching for the right angle and direction. I looked at him, and my eyes grew darker and darker. In the end, the inherent bad nature of an alpha prevailed between feeling sorry for my omega and seeking my own pleasure. I lifted my leg and forcefully pushed him all the way down. William's face changed drastically. Clearly seeing the filthy look in William's eyes. But I had already silenced all his words with a long-lasting kiss. My taste has been spoiled by you. Watching William's eyes lose focus and about to slip away. I've already pulled one hand out of the tied ropes, hugged his waist, and easily taken all the initiative. Whispered words of encouragement in his ear. Wife, even if I want to divorce you, you don't want to kill me on the first day of imprisoning me. Do you? William still left early the next day. When he was about to leave, I watched leisurely as he coldly tied at least 3 thick ropes around my wrist. After he left, I took out the computer hidden in the plant ash and sent a message asking Daniel to send the new documents as soon as possible. There was no response in the message box, and I got a bit impatient waiting. Just as I was about to call Daniel, unexpectedly, his call came to me first. Something's wrong, Matthew. Madam was shot in the shoulder by a sniper on her way to the laboratory and is now in emergency treatment. The half-piece of rope in my hand suddenly fell to the ground. I arranged the best doctors for William, and even the surgical medical equipment was shipped overnight from the outer city. I sat outside the operating room so panicked that my hands and feet turned cold. I didn't relax until William was wheeled out. The doctor took off the blood-stained medical gloves. Matthew, the shrapnel has been removed and Professor He's blood oxygen saturation has been maintained. She still needs to be hospitalized for further observation. I nodded to show that I understood. Looked at William lying on the hospital bed. William, who had just survived, looked a bit pale. Due to the lack of color, the hospital gown on her looked even looser. At this moment, he quietly closed his eyes with a hint of dark circles under his eyes due to chronic sleep deprivation. He didn't wake up, only murmured, "Matthew. Matthew, it hurts so much." Under his muttering, one could faintly hear a slight groan. It made my heart shatter into pieces. I held his hand and said, "Matthew is here, always by your side." Presumably hearing my words, William's eyebrows relaxed a bit. I looked at his extremely obedient appearance. My expression gradually turned cold. This is my omega. I clenched my fists tightly. Those blind people actually dared to touch my person and hurt my omega on my territory. Sooner or later, I'll make them all pay the price. William doesn't have many enemies. The root cause is still the potion. But since the potion involves many interested parties, it's difficult to narrow down the scope of the attackers in a short time. I slapped the documents back into the arms of my useless subordinate. What do you mean by possibly? The fingerprints on the gun will tell us who the shooter is. No matter how powerful those families are, they can't make a living person disappear into thin air. I want to see the sniper alive or dead. Keep investigating. I want to see the sniper within 3 days. Suddenly, I saw the basement door being opened a crack. I rubbed my eyebrows irritably. Didn't I say that no one is allowed in now? My voice suddenly stopped. My gaze fell on William, who came in. William was already thin, and now he was even thinner. He folded his arms, leaned against the door, and still carried a boxed meal in his hand. At this moment, he looked even more at ease if one ignored the slightly moist sweat on his forehead. Matthew, is the play of being imprisoned fun? William is a person who is easy to coax but also difficult to coax. If he doesn't care about something with you, then no matter how big the matter is, it doesn't count for much. But if he does care, even the most trivial matter can be sentenced to death by him and executed immediately. Obviously, he is now in a state where he is difficult to coax. As soon as I wanted to step forward, he shook off my hand with a snap. "Don't follow me. I don't want to see you now." Without hesitation, William slammed the door shut. When I chased after him, I only saw the boxed meal quietly placed on the dining table. It was from my favorite restaurant. William and I have fallen into a kind of subtle Cold War, but it's only limited to things in bed and daily communication. I still go to the company in the morning and come back very late after drinking with those political officials at night. Many people are happy that I'm willing to return to the political arena. Correspondingly, there will also be many people who are not very happy. When I went to the company, Daniel didn't look good. He squinted his eyes and gave me a meaningful look. I knew what was going on in my heart. I pushed open the door of my own office and saw the senior superior sitting in my seat. My face remained calm as I met his eyes and said, "Dad." My dad didn't look happy. He held a cigarette between his fingers and rested his hands on the table. The air was filled with the smell of nicotine. "I heard that you've been in contact with government officials recently?" I had no intention of hiding it. "Yes." My dad's expression gradually turned cold. "Matthew, you've forgotten what you promised me." I bowed my head respectfully, shouldering the responsibility of an alpha. "I did promise you that I wouldn't get involved in politics again. But now things are different. I have someone I want to protect. So, no matter how dangerous it is, I'll do it." "What's different?" I didn't want to stay any longer and turned to leave. My dad couldn't hold back his anger any longer. "Matthew, don't you remember how you almost died 3 years ago? Are you going to fall into the same trap again?" I turned around, frowning slightly. "What?" My dad seemed to realize something and shut his mouth. But I had already caught the key phrase, 3 years ago. I deduced it with my extraordinary political acumen. 3 years ago, you hid something from me? Or maybe I forgot some important things, right? My dad's face turned ashen. Nonsense. I already had some guesses in mind. His resistance only confirmed one of my speculations. "You don't need to tell me. As long as something has really happened in reality, it will leave traces. I can find out about what happened 3 years ago by myself." When I turned around and pushed open the door, I heard my dad finally roar out angrily behind me. "Matthew, if I had known that the Omega you protected with your life 3 years ago was William, I would never have let you see each other again, let alone agreed to your marriage. Don't you see it yet? William is your bane. He is the nemesis of our Xingming 3 and your nemesis, Matthew." I sat in front of the desk looking through the materials from 3 years ago. There weren't many materials from 3 years ago. It seemed that I had funded an unknown laboratory and made pro-Omega remarks in the political arena with my influence. Half a month later, a man-made car accident made me fall into a coma for half a year unexpectedly. In this material, apart from the fact that the laboratory was under William's name, there was no sign of any other connection between me and William. But at the time of the car accident, we were in the same car. I don't think I'm some kind of saint who sacrifices myself, but at that moment I saved William with half of my life. When I got home, William had just come back from the laboratory. He saw me at the entrance, was slightly stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted, changed into slippers, and sat down opposite me to have a meal. I held the knife and fork and took the initiative to break the ice. "Are you still angry with me?" William glanced at me and said very naturally, "I'm not angry. On the contrary, I'm very happy." I followed his words and asked, "What are you happy about?" William told me very calmly, "The new Omega potion is very successful. As long as there are no problems with the clinical manifestations, it can be put into clinical use soon." This was the first time William took the initiative to mention something about the experiment to me. This was good news for both of us. Looking at the person in front of me, I rarely lifted my lips. "Such good news. Let's have some wine to celebrate." William had no objection and expressed his approval. "That's fine." When William turned around to get the wine, I suddenly called him to stop. "William." William shuddered. "We've been together for 3 years, right?" William stood with his back to me and was silent for a while. It was a long time before he slowly said, "Yes. 3 years have turned our reunion into what I thought was a first encounter. 3 years. Actually, it's enough to change a lot of things. But one thing has never changed, that is, I will fall in love with you again and again. My soul is destined to resonate with yours." I sent William to the new Omega inhibitor product launch. There were 3 layers of bodyguards inside and outside this press conference. All journalists entering the press conference were checked. Of course, some dirty things could also be found. A sneaky-looking man was searched by 2 bodyguards and a sharp bayonet hidden close to his body was found. He was quickly roughly covered with a black cloth over his head, picked up and kicked into the bottomless basement. The black cloth was torn off and the man saw the scene in front of him clearly. The dim lights in the basement reflected the slight strange and gorgeous look in my eyes. I held a gun and pointed it at his chest. Who instructed you to do this? The man's eyes suddenly shrank. No one instructed me. With a bang, a gunshot rang out in the air. The bullet hit the man's shoulder precisely. Hitting the artery, the warm and moist blood spurted directly onto the ground. It's off. When I raised the gun again, the man had already closed his eyes defiantly, holding back the painful sobs. But he only heard someone seem to let out a soft laugh in the darkness. The so-called gunshot never rang out again later. When he opened his eyes again, he only saw me slowly wiping my gun that had been with me for many years. I won't kill you. Watching yourself die little by little due to excessive blood loss is far more terrifying than death itself. I threw the gun to the 2 bodyguards beside me. Wait here. Send him to the hospital to stop the bleeding when he is willing to talk. When I pushed open the basement door, I heard the man behind me finally break down. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. After dealing with this annoying matter at hand, I quickly rushed back to the press conference site. William was sitting on the stage, wearing a well-tailored white suit, easily answering the reporters' questions. I was sitting in the audience, and my eyes never left my Omega. An assistant from his laboratory came over to pour me a glass of water. Matthew, have some water. The press conference will last for another half an hour. Only then did I lower my gaze and take a sip of hot water. Don't let Professor he see those online public opinions. I'll handle the outside affairs cleanly and won't let them reach him. The appearance of the Omega improved inhibitor is destined to cause a great stir in society and will surely be recorded in the medical history. I raised my head again and met William's gaze. He also saw me and a smile spread across his lips. I'm very glad for myself and also very grateful to fate. I haven't missed any important things in my life as an Omega. The bright moon hangs high. With me here, there's no need to be involved in the affairs of love. I brought my Omega back home with my own hands. William looked a bit tired. Even wrapped in the coat full of my alpha pheromones, he could hardly relieve his exhaustion. I carried him from the car back to Xingming 3. When I put him on the bed, William suddenly opened his eyes. Because he was still sleepy, it felt a bit unreal. Matthew, why don't you ask how we fell in love and got together 3 years ago? Of course, I can't not care about what happened 3 years ago. But no matter how much I care, this person in front of me is more important. In a hoarse voice, I asked him, how did we fall in love? Now William seems to have completely shed the indestructible shell of the aloof and unapproachable person. I saw his softest side. He tilted his head towards me and said very seriously, 3 years ago, you were just a little puppy, Matthew. He held my hand and placed it on his chest. Matthew, I know you just forgot about me. I just want you to be okay. But you've made my heart ache so much. Matthew, my heart hurts so much. I lowered my head and kissed his forehead. As long as Matthew is here, it won't hurt. William's breathing gradually calmed down. Because of his tiredness, he soon fell asleep. The doorbell rang unusually early the next day. Outside were 2 law enforcement officers in neat uniforms. Professor He, someone has accused you of false advertising regarding the newly released Omega inhibitor, violating the equality clause of business competition and having a negative impact of causing social panic. Now please come with us. One of the officers showed their credentials. They said to me in the same condescending tone, Matthew, you should also follow the principle of avoidance. If the charges are proven true, you may not be able to escape the charge of shielding the main culprit. William's court hearing was scheduled for Saturday. I was stopped outside the courtroom. Matthew, you can't go in. It was specifically instructed that Professor He is a key person under special attention. Only 1 lawyer can be brought in, and no family members are allowed. I took out my credentials from my bosom and looked straight ahead. Matthew, former judicial advisor to the chairman, was specially approved to attend court hearings for life and even intervene in all cases due to significant meritorious service during his tenure. Judges must adopt relevant trial suggestions unless they report for a retrial. Now, can you make way for me? After the credentials were confirmed to be correct, proper path was cleared in front. I strode into the courtroom. William hadn't been brought in yet, and I sat behind the defendant's family seats as if there was no one else around. I didn't sit in the special advisor's seat. I just wanted to clearly tell everyone that I was partial to William. He was my one and only preference. There were many whispers in the courtroom, but no one dared to step forward and question. William was brought in. I exchanged a distant look with him. We already understand each other's feelings. Some things don't need to be expressed in words at this point. The judge opened the case file and said, "William, someone accuses you of false advertising regarding the newly released Omega improved inhibitor, violating the equal terms of business competition and having a bad impact of causing social panic. Do you have anything to defend yourself?" William looked at the judge and said, "Is there any evidence? Whether it's through the analysis of the drug ingredients or consulting pharmacists, there's no way to prove whether the Omega reagent I improved will harm the reproductive cavity of Omegas, right?" William's gaze was very gentle, but when he glanced at the judge, one could still be intimidated by the sharpness in his eyes. "So, does the court want me, the defendant, to prove my innocence? Or is it going to deal with me under other charges?" "Of course not, William." The judge wiped his forehead. "At present, we don't have a scientific way to prove the effectiveness of the improved reagent you made. According to the public prosecution's request, you must immediately stop the market circulation of this reagent, unless you can make the reagent in court and have it verified on the spot by a regular pharmacist." The court was in an uproar. Forcing the disclosure of the reagent production process is really vicious. I gave Daniel a look. After receiving it, Daniel lowered his head and left the court. "With me here, it'll probably take those people some extra effort to get the production process of the reagent to leak out from here." The judge averted his gaze. "If, Professor, he is worried, we can—" "No need." William interrupted him. "I can demonstrate it in front of everyone and have the effects and ingredients tested on the spot." The staff brought in medical instruments. William changed into a white lab coat. His experimental movements were very meticulous and easy to follow. Actually, the original inhibitor uses herbs with multiple ingredients whose medicinal effects are rather radical, which will affect the development and stability of the reproductive cavity of Omegas. All we did was to replace those ingredients with milder ones from thousands of herbs. Several experts whispered to each other, "If it's just a matter of replacing the ingredients, then why hasn't anyone improved it for so many years? Or was the researcher who invented the Omega inhibitor back then actually serving the alphas?" William glanced in the direction of the whispering and then looked away. "The wisdom of our predecessors cannot be ignored. In fact, replacing these herbs does affect the efficacy of the medicine. So I added another ingredient on this basis. This ingredient once appeared in my graduation thesis in the form of a paper and was publicly recognized by the top university. There's no doubt about its practicality and versatility. After the potion was made, it was taken away by the court staff. Right in front of everyone, they tested the ingredients and the effects on the spot. Then the court staff handed the results to the judge's desk. The judge read out the results. According to the test results, William's improved potion has the same effect as the Omega inhibitors on the market. There are no adverse reactions in the short term, and there were no non-compliant actions in the production process. Sorry, William, you are acquitted. Although the judge didn't prove whether long-term use of William's improved Omega inhibitor would damage the reproductive cavity of Omegas, William's simple and easy to understand explanation was enough to make many people believe it was true. The rest can be proven by time. There is hope for the improvement of the Omega inhibitor. The Omega representatives in the audience couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. The appearance of this potion will, to a large extent, solve the Omega's dependence on the alpha's pheromones. The personalities of Omegas will no longer belong solely to their alphas, and they can more freely decide their own broad lives. At such a joyous moment, there are naturally some sneaky rats who wish they could slip away secretly. However, I didn't give them this chance. What about the crime of false accusation? Can the matter be left unresolved after pushing someone to the forefront for everyone to judge? I stood up and just gave a single look. Then someone surrounded the place with guns. The cold muzzles of the guns were pointed at the heads of the leaders of various families, teaching them to learn how to speak. After being in power for so many years, they will also face the accusations brought forward by the former legal advisor. Of course, it's not just the crime of false accusation. This is just the beginning. The evidence is in my hands. Artificially created car accidents, shootings, and stabbings will all be gradually unearthed along this line. When justice is served, all sins will surely be punished accordingly. William walked to my side. The omega pheromone on him was very faint. It was like a ship that had been drifting alone in the sea fog for a long time and finally found its harbor. Matthew, thank you. I turned sideways and caught my moon with my shoulder. William, there's never a need to say thank you between us. Whatever you want to do, I'll stand by your side. Relationships in this world are not only based on interests. Some feelings of love don't need to be expressed many times to be felt. William, I'll always be behind you. Even if you are against the whole world, I'll protect you with my life. William and I went out for a half-month trip, which was regarded as a compensation for our honeymoon half a year ago when we got married. My father used to say something right. Once you choose to get involved again, it's hard to withdraw. So even for William's sake, I have to firmly hold onto power for the rest of my life to protect my omega. William had a rare good sleep. I held him in my arms and watched him frown from time to time. I released my alpha pheromone until dawn. I got up early from the bed to prepare breakfast. In the kitchen, I cracked eggs into a mold, fried them until they were runny and half-cooked, and then sprinkled scallions on them. When I came out with the fried eggs, I saw William standing beside the landline. His bathrobe was loose, but one could still vaguely make out his extremely superior waistline. He had just finished answering the phone, and his eyes were still sleepy. I put down the plate and asked, "What's wrong?" William said to me in a hoarse voice, "Someone from the foundation called me and said that you set up a public welfare fund in our name to specifically help those omegas who were abandoned because of damaged reproductive cavities." I walked over to him and joked, "It's this matter. Is it my fault that I didn't tell you in advance?" William said lazily, "The point is not this. The point is that they also wished us a long, lasting, and happy marriage and many children." William slowly looked at me. When did the people from the foundation start to privately investigate the social relationships of the employers? I was speechless and hugged his waist from behind. Maybe they don't know the rules. I'll go back and talk to their person in charge. What a mess they've made. William lowered his eyes and thought for a while. Forget it. William put down the landline phone. They're not wrong. We should have a long, lasting, and happy marriage anyway. I bit his gland and whined more brazenly. What about having many children? I thought silently. The people from the foundation are quite perceptive. Perhaps in the future we can still carry out long-term cooperation with the company's business. William stopped talking and his eyes were slightly unfocused. He clearly looked like he had entered the heat period. I picked up the person in my arms and William tilted his head up asking for a kiss. Their figures overlapped and their profiles were locked in a lingering and inseparable kiss. The last lamp in the room also went out. The moonlight shone on the signature of the gift sent by the foundation on the bedside table. There were 2 lines in gold calligraphy, both in Chinese and English. Matthew loves William for a lifetime. I really love you, over and over again.